Hi all, so let's start our session. So warm good evening to all the engineering aspirants present here. And I'm really happy to see the number of students who are here, who are interested in this program. So I welcome you all to this Engineering Foundation program conducted by Directorate of Admissions and Academic Outreach, Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham. So let's see what is the aim of Engineering Foundation program, or why we are with a program like this. So I think most of you are in your 11th and 12th class. So during my school days itself, while I'm in my class, and when my math teacher used to teach me this integration, the differentiation, and when she teaches me all those derivations or some formulas, some equations, I used to wonder like whether I'll use this in my real life. So it's an age-old question in the mind of a school student. Like, when am I ever going to use this in my real life? So this Engineering Foundation program aims to give you answer at least to some of the topics you have studied in your school. So this program mostly concentrates on physics and mathematics subject. So we are using each and every topic or each and every idea. It's not topic, idea we have studied in maybe our physics or mathematics in our day-to-day life, or maybe in some areas which are around us and in our life. So this program aims to give you a clear idea about at least some of the facts that you have studied in your school. And I wish to tell you that you all are engineering aspirants. So it's like we all are engineers in one way or the other. I wish to call everyone like that. So it's like your body is the engine and your mind is the engineer. So even in some tasks we are doing in our day-to-day life, maybe very small or little tasks that we are doing in our day-to-day life, we require some skills. So we all are skilled in one way or the other. So what this engineering or this profession means, by engineering, we are going to develop these skills to the next level, or we are going to upgrade the skill, or we are going to develop this to another level. So everyone has that engineering skill in themselves. So it's like we are open to learn everything new, or we wish to learn new things. So it's like all these new things will make our life easier. So for a small child who learns to walk, for the ancient people who have invented all these wheels and all the inventions, all these were to satisfy our needs. So for all the students present here, I wish to tell, like, engineer your life in all the aspects. It's not only in your profession, engineer your life in every aspect. So basically, I'm from that engineering background. So I wish to tell, like, for me, the advantages of becoming an engineer, or it's like I can get easily adapted to different situations, or I can manage this multitasking and all the things very easily. So I'll give you some idea about why we are doing this course. So here we aims to provide you an idea on where we are using this basic ideas of maths and science to make our life easier. And we are going to relate all the topics with something related to technology. We'll give you some ideas about the new trends, what are the technological advancements, what are the real world applications or real life applications of all the topics you have studied, what are the different career opportunities in that field. So we'll be giving you an idea about these things. So this is the core structure of this program. So we have a 10-day program, and for the first 7 days, we have the engineering foundation classes. So different topics of mathematics and physics we'll be discussing. Then on the 8th day, we have a program in which you'll be able to meet one of our alumni. So she is Neha Sridhar. So she was a 2021 pass out of Amrita. So amidst of this lockdown and this COVID and all those issues, she is placed with highest CTC in Google last year. So you can have a talk with her, you can discuss your doubts, you can ask her about the preparation strategies, and all this can help you in your career. And on the 9th day, we'll have a career counseling session. So where we'll be discussing about the different branches of engineering. We'll give you a clear-cut idea about what is there in each branch. And the final day, we'll have a small quiz about this program. So one thing I wish to tell all the students is now technology matters a lot. So when you're focusing on something or when you come out with something, when you have to relate everything you see in your life with technology. So I can assure you that this course will help you to see at least some of them in such a way. So I wish to finish this introduction with Sir Arthur's quote. So any sufficiently advanced technology, we can call this as magic. So any sufficiently advanced technology is equivalent to magic. So let's start today's session. So today's session is something which is related to physics. So I'll give you some idea about the electromagnetic waves. I know you have studied about electromagnetic waves. You know the definition. What are the constituent waves in the electromagnetic spectrum? You have an idea about the electromagnetic spectrum. You know what is frequency. You know what is wavelength. You have all these ideas. So we'll just brush up some of the basic ideas and then we'll move on to the applications of each area. So what do you mean by electromagnetic wave, or what are EM waves? So EM waves or electromagnetic waves, we know that they are created as a part of the vibrations between the electric and the magnetic field. So we have waves, or we have an idea about there are different category of waves. So the most common is the mechanical waves. So is there any difference between mechanical waves and this electromagnetic waves or the EM waves? Yes, there is a difference. That is, these EM waves or electromagnetic waves, they do not require a medium to propagate. So that's the peculiarity of the EM waves. And the electric field and the magnetic field of this EM waves or the electromagnetic waves, they are perpendicular to each other, which means they are in right angle to each other. And they are also perpendicular to the direction of this EM wave. So we'll quickly have a basic idea. So the electromagnetic radiation, you can see the electromagnetic spectrum here. So here, the electromagnetic radiation, which consists of some of the waves of the electromagnetic field, and they'll be propagating through the space and they'll carry some particular energy. That is, they'll have some amount of the electromagnetic radiant energy. So you have an idea about the different constituents here. So it includes radio waves, microwave, infrared, visible light, ultraviolet, X-ray, and gamma ray. And in the spectrum, you can have an idea about their different wavelengths and frequency. We have given it. Now, what is the behavior of an electromagnetic wave, or how an electromagnetic wave behaves? So the behavior of an electromagnetic wave in a particular substance will depend upon its frequency or wavelength. I know you have an idea about what is frequency and what is wavelength. So what is wavelength? So here in this diagram, you can see that the distance between the consecutive peaks of the wave, we can call this as the wavelength, either the distance between the crest or the distance between the trough, that we can call as wavelength. Then what is frequency? So frequency, we can call this as number of waves in that particular time. So the behavior of an electromagnetic wave in a particular substance will depend upon these two factors. The first one is frequency and the second one is wavelength. So these waves in the electromagnetic spectrum will have a range or will have different behaviors because their frequency and their wavelength is different. So this makes them suitable for a wide range of applications. So each of them is having different wavelength and different frequency, and this makes them suitable for a wide range of applications. I'm sorry. Yeah. So these are the applications that you have an idea about. Maybe all these applications you have studied in your school itself. So for these radio waves, we use it mainly for this communication purposes. Either the radio or the television communication, maybe in AM and FM, maybe in like radars in military, maybe for the mobile signals, or in cameras we use this, in telemetry, all this we use this radio waves. So for this microwaves, when we hear the term microwave, we have an idea about the microwave oven in our kitchen. So we use this in the microwave oven, or we use this for the satellite communication. Then for the infrared radiations or infrared type of waves, we have the usage in heaters, or maybe in cameras, maybe in some medical applications like physiotherapy. There are electrical heaters. So all these are some of the applications of the infrared. Now we have this UV radiation, X-ray or gamma ray, and the visible light. So for this UV, we will use it as in the UV sterilizer or in medical field, or maybe food processing, aerosol sprayers, refrigerators, or some equipments, energy efficient lamps. All these are some of the applications of UV. Then moving on to X-ray and gamma ray, we know we use this both in medical field. Maybe for the detection of some abnormalities, or maybe in the treatment of some diseases and all, maybe cancer treatment and all, we use this radiations. And X-rays can be used sometimes to test some materials in the industry also. Then we have this visible light. So we can have the applications as optical fibers, used in optical fibers and medical endoscopy. All these are some of the applications. So I know these portions you have an idea with, right? So now we'll be discussing some of the terms, or some of the terms which is related to technology. So all these we have an idea, right? So now moving on to the next part. So these are the important points which we are going to discuss today. So in technology, we have with the 5G communication is there. It is used in holographic processing, then in medicine, advanced medical areas, then terahertz waves. All these are a part of either related to this electromagnetic waves. So we can discuss each one of them in detail. So the first one is 5G. It's the 5th generation technology. So I know most of the students here will have a good idea about 5G than me. So what is the basic thing we have an idea about 5G? It is being developed by 3GPP, and it's the 5G technology, which is the standard for the cellular communication. So this is the basic idea we have. Now we'll discuss about 5G, or we'll discuss about the characteristics and all the details. So we can have an idea about what is 5G. By 5G, what happened to the communication? Is there any improvement, or what are the features that are added? How the speed is there, whether the speed increased or what happened? How much is the efficiency? Is 5G accessible for us? What is the economic impact that 5G has given? So we'll be discussing everything in detail. So we can start with 5G. So what is 5G? It's the 5th generation of mobile network, right? So we have this wireless standard from G to 5G. So it's the generations. The generations from 1st generation, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th generation. So the main aim of this 5G technology is to enhance communication, or to make the communication seamless as possible. So the communications between the people, machines, objects, or devices, we need to, through the 5G, this communication will be seamless. That is the main advantage of 5G. So now let's see about the history, or how this generations came. So the first was in 1980s. So during that time, in the 1980s, we have these small phones with us, analog cell phones with us, and we used to talk with different people. So we have a network which is limited to voice calls only. That was the first part. So after that, the second generation came, and it was in 1990s. So during that time, we have this DSM, GPRS, and edge advancements. All those were in the starting period. So during that second generation, we have some added features to the first generation. So we have this SMS possibilities, MMS, this voice calls, the voicemail services. All these were added to the first generation. We have the second generation, and the time period was at 1990s. Then the 3G, it was by maybe you were all 2000 kids, right? So it was in 2000s. So with 3G, everything drastically changed. The communication is very, very fast. We have the facilities like web browsing. We have the smartphones with us during that time. So we have the mobile data concept, so which will let these users to browse through the internet. Then we have this SMS, MMS. We used to do this video calls. Then mobile TV was there. internet access was provided. So all these were a part of this 3G. Then after 3G, after 10 years in the 2010, we have this 4G. So it's like international mobile telecommunications. They have come up with some advanced standards or come up with some necessary requirements. So the 3G, which is advanced or which follows all the requirements that was set by the international mobile telecommunications, we have the 4G with us. So it's like we have some advanced technologies combined with the 4G. Yeah, there is cloud computing and all with this 4G. Then now the current situation is 5G. So what will be the advantage? So the data transfers and everything will be really very fast. And this supports this IoT and the cloud computing. So all the things that were already there in all the generations are followed with some improvements in the next generation. So here we have this connectivity, higher connectivity, faster data transfer, or our speed is very high. We have this mobile TV HD came, then this cloud computing, IoT, all this came in it with the coming of 5G. So I just want to ask you all, are we using 5G or whether it's implemented in India, whether we have this 5G? Someone has raised the hands, but I can't see anything in the so do we have this 5G with us? Or are we using this 5G? I just want to have an idea. It's like, I'll tell you, so 30% of the nations in the world have implemented this 5G. So most of the countries have implemented this 5G and they started using this 5G. So the countries like South Korea, China, maybe US, all these countries are now using this 5G technology. And in last year, it's Jan 2022. So in 2021, we saw many mobile phone companies, they were selling their phones saying, yeah, this is 5G. Most of the companies sell their phones in the name of 5G. So when this 5G will be there in India? So it's like around 60 countries in the world have commercially built this 5G and they started using it. So, but the thing is that in India, it took about 6 years to get adapted into 3G, then 4 years to 4G. So what about this 5G? So the Department of Telecommunications in India have confirmed that maybe in 2022, at least 10 to 13 cities in the country will be using this 5G, which includes Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, Pune, Lucknow. I don't remember all of them, Bangalore. All these are the cities which will have this 5G by the 2022, maybe by the middle of 2022. And also one more interesting fact is that the Telecom Regulatory Authority and the Department of Telecommunications has asked the companies to submit their pricing recommendations. It's like they have asked the Reliance Jio, Airtel or Vodafone to submit their pricing for this 5G. So the news is like mostly the pricings will be similar to that of 4G. So in India, the Bharati Airtel has successfully completed the first 5G trial and their bandwidth was like 700 megahertz. And this was done in association with Nokia, I think in Kolkata, in some outskirts, some areas of Kolkata. Then Reliance Jio has also successfully tested this 5G. Vodafone has also done it in association with Nokia. So maybe by, it's like Prime Minister of our country will host this 5G in the 75th Independence Day, that is this year, August 15. So we'll most probably by this year end or maybe next year, we'll be using this 5G or we'll get adapted to this 5G. So you can see a graph which shows the adaptation or of the countries. So 5G adaptation in the world. So the graph is steeply increasing. So most of the countries are now using 5G, including this China. All these countries have now started using this 5G. Now we'll see some of the features of 5G. So what are the features which make 5G different from 4G, or what are the advancements that came with the 5G technology? So the first one is faster transmission. The second one is the higher data transfer rate or faster download or upload rate is there. So there is smoother transmission of data, and always there is faster transmission, and we can transfer about huge amount of data. Better download facility is there, and large number of devices, maybe n number of devices can be connected. So the connectivity or the support is also high. So all these are the features which makes 5G better than that of 4G. So it guarantees a faster and smoother transmission, and higher amount of data can be transmitted, and the download and upload speed is very, very high, and number of device connectivity is also high, maybe more than large number of devices can be connected also. So now you can see a graph here, right? So here you can see the different generations. It's like 3G, then 4G LTE, 4G LTE CAT, 4G LTE advanced, and 5G. So you can see the range increasing. 42.2 Mbps to 100 Mbps, 150 Mbps, 1000, and then it's 10,000. So here the short frequency is shorter and the bandwidth is large. So this 5G makes use of the millimeter waves, and they have a range between 30 gigahertz to 300 gigahertz. So the 5G is making use of this millimeter waves in their functioning. So now I'll give you some of the benefits for the business and some of the benefits of 5G for our daily life. So the first one is network issue. There will not be any network issue because 5G seems to be faster than that of 4G, and the data transfer rate is very, very less. So there will not be any delay as this network is faster. So the second advantage is lower latency. What do you mean by latency? So latency can be called as the delay between the sending and receiving information. We call latency as the delay between sending and receiving information. So lower latency means there will not be that much delay. So the safety and the functionality or real-time viewing will be there, and there will not be that buffering or lags. Then the next one is greater data capacity. As 5G supports multiple connectivity or allows multiple devices to connect, so the amount of data transfer will be huge. So the spectrum band of this 5G is larger compared to that of 4G. And I'll tell you, the spectrum auction has not yet happened in our country. Maybe it will happen within 2 to 3 months. So the next benefits include enhanced automation. So it's like everything will get more streamlined because the delay will not be there. Everyone can enjoy the technology easily. Then the next part is big data analytics. So we know that as multiple devices are being connected in the network, when there are multiple devices in a particular network, the data, the amount of data in that particular network will be also high. So they can deal with huge amount of data. They can analyze huge amount of data. That will also happen. Then the next one is richer communication experiences. So it's like there is no lag, or there will be real-time viewing or real-time reactions that will happen in the viewing or in the user's perspective when it comes to this 5G. So after business, let's see some of the benefits of 5G in our daily life. So the first one is better streaming experience or elevated streaming experience. Then better coverage for the smartphones and the road safety. So what does mean by elevated streaming experience? So we will have this uninterrupted streaming. We can enjoy the unlimited data capacity. There will not be any lags, or there will not be any issues with the content and all. So we'll have a good or excellent entertainment will happen, and there will not be any interruption. So that is mean by the elevated streaming experience. And better coverage for the smartphones is the another advantage. So there were areas, or there are places which were difficult to get connected, right? There are places which was once difficult to reach, but by the coming of 5G, there will not be any difficulty in getting connected. So we could enjoy the strong connections, and we can have this better communication with the coming of 5G. So the next part is road safety. So we know that concept of self-driving cars. So most probably within some years, this concept has started earlier, or this concept has arisen earlier. So maybe within some years, we'll have the self-driving cars on our roads. So for these cars, there should be a data processing between the vehicles, between the network, and all those things. So safety is important in this case of self-driving cars. So this 5G helps to improve the safety and also improves in the traffic management in the case of this self-driving cars. So it's like this, for these self-driving cars, the chance of having these accidents or dangers will be very less, because these cars will be able to communicate with each other. They'll be able to communicate with the signals. They'll have the smart sign communications. They can follow this maps and all. So the safety will also increase as a part of this 5G. Then users can get improved service in almost all areas, including cloud services, IoT, or maybe augmented reality or gaming. Everyone will improve when 5G is there. Then the next part is efficient energy consumption. So 5G is somewhat efficient, or it's like 5G will be efficient, and so the energy consumption will get reduced. Then healthcare sector is another area which is going to get the advantages of this 5G. So we'll be able to access these patients, we'll be able to communicate with them. So there will be more advantages, or it is going to, the healthcare sector is going to get some advantages due to this 5G. Now I'll give you some features like this 5G and IoT. We can call them as a match made in heaven. Both of them are mixed and they have to do so many things in technology. So the first one I'll tell you is the lower latency rate. We have already discussed this. What is mean by this lower latency rate is there will be a delay between the sending and receiving information if we are sending some information. In the case of 4G, that delay was 200 milliseconds. But when we have this 5G, that delay gets dropped down to 1 millisecond. So think of it. Using 4G, we have this much delay. Once 5G is there with this waves, we will have this 1 millisecond delay. So everything is going to be fast. I'll give you one more example. It's like for a human being, if you're watching something, to get a visual stimulus, it will take minimum of 250 milliseconds or 1/4 of a second. Yeah, I'm watching something, maybe a vehicle or maybe a flower. To get its visual stimulus, I'll have to have a time period, minimum average reaction. The reaction time for the humans is like 250 milliseconds or 1/4 of a millisecond. There are people who are trained for this purpose. For this visual stimulation, the average reaction time of those people will be around 190 to 200 milliseconds. So it's by the coming of 5G, this 200 millisecond is getting dropped to 1 millisecond. And we can imagine like our car is going to react, or my vehicle is going to react 250 times faster than me. It's like from 200 to 1, or it's like for a visual stimulus, I need to recognize, or I need to have a time of 250 milliseconds to react to it, or my average reaction time for this is 250 milliseconds. So now my car is going to react at 1 millisecond. So it's 250 times. With the coming of 5G, or this vehicles, it's going to be 250 times faster than me. So it will be easy for these vehicles to communicate with lots and lots of incoming information, to communicate with the other vehicles, or maybe with the road signals, and everything within some milliseconds. I'll give you one more example. If I'm driving a vehicle and I'm going with 100 km per hour, so before I pull my brakes, or for the braking, the average reaction distance is called as 30 meters. So once I'm pressing this brake, and the average reaction distance is called as 30 meters. So here, when I'm having a 1 millisecond reaction, it will take, or the distance will be only 3 centimeters, or maybe less than 3 centimeters, or at least 1 inch. So the car would react that much fastly. So these self-driving cars is going to benefit this concept of latency, or this lower latency concept in the 5G. So the self-driving cars require very aggressive latency, but they require some data transfer rate, but they don't need that much faster data transfer rate. So the next property of this 5G, that is a higher data transfer rate, is being used by this cloud-based services. More than latency, they need this faster data rate or a faster response for this transfers. So these are some of the areas which is going to advance by the coming of 5G. So these are some of the trends which will get advanced by the 5G. We have an idea about what is artificial intelligence, robotics process automation, cloud technology, IoT. So all these areas will have the advantage of 5G once it gets implemented. Now we have already heard this, like maybe you have seen some articles and maybe in some social media and all. Everyone is thinking about 5G will have some health risk or 5G will give you some health issues and all. So everyone is concerned about it and people are discussing about it. So researchers still now have told like there is no proof for this and it's completely something which is irrelevant. So we need to educate all these people regarding this, or consumers or the customers regarding this. So there is no such risk in the implementation of the technology called the 5G. We know that this 5G is somewhat very exciting, somewhat appealing. It has a higher data transfer rate. It's going to deal with huge amount of data. It is going to reduce the delay. We know all these factors, but there are some consequences that may happen when it is implemented. It can impact on the device battery life, or maybe there will be high cost for the rollout, or there will be imbalance in this uploading and downloading of data, or downloading speed will happen. So there can be some feedbacks, but 5G is supporting all the other technologies. Once 5G is there, it is supporting all the other technologies. So now after 5G, I think let's move to the next part. Yeah. So after 5G, we'll have an idea about terahertz waves. We'll call this as THZ waves. I think most of you have an idea about what is the terahertz waves. So they'll work very fast and they'll help us to transfer data. It's called in the blink of eye. So they are that much faster waves. The main important property of the stereo, they enable this stereo vision. Or the terahertz waves is like they have this property of penetration. They'll get penetrated. So it is mostly used in detecting of this bombs or poisonous clouds, maybe concealed weapons, and all these areas we are making use of this waves called the terahertz waves. So now I think you have the spectrum with you, but here in the spectrum, I have added the terahertz waves here. So we have the radio wave, microwave, then between this microwave and the infrared wave, we have this terahertz waves with us. So in the electromagnetic spectrum, the terahertz waves are in the place between these microwave waves and the infrared radiation. So this terahertz waves possess the properties of both of them. So they have some properties of microwaves and they have some properties of the infrared radiations. So let's see what are the most important properties of them. So the first one is penetration. I have already told you. So the main advantage of the terahertz waves is that they have deeper penetration than scattering. So the light will not get scattered that much. It will deeply penetrate into that particular surface. And the next property is that the wavelength of the terahertz radiation is longer compared to that of the infrared wavelength. So as it is between the infrared and microwave, the wavelength is greater than that of the infrared. So the next part is resolution. So these terahertz waves are having shorter wavelength compared to that of the microwave ones. And they provide us with better spatial imaging resolution. So the imaging resolution is somewhat better compared to the other waves. Then regarding the safety, this is much safe compared to the other radiations. Because the photon energies in this terahertz band or the terahertz region or the terahertz rays will not have that much photon energies, or they emit it less than compared to that of the X-ray. And one more point is that these rays are non-ionizing. So there is no risk in using this radiation. So now we'll move on to some of the applications of these terahertz waves. I could tell you the applications mostly goes to the medical field. So these terahertz waves are being used in bioimaging, medical diagnosis, communication, explosive detection, industrial inspections, and security cameras. So these are some of the areas where the terahertz waves are being used, or the terahertz are being used. So we can see each of them in detail. So the first one is medical imaging. So these terahertz waves are able to penetrate. We have already have an idea about these properties. They'll be able to penetrate. So they can penetrate in those areas which have less amount of water content, or they have low water content, where these waves will be easily penetratable, or they can easily penetrate into that area. And the second one is there is no ionization. So the damage to the tissue will be very less. So it's good to use these radiations in the medical field. And next, I'll tell you an important application in the medical field, that is terahertz tomography. So it's like an analysis using these terahertz waves or this radiation, where we'll be able to find out some of the issues in our upper layer of the body. It's like if our skin is having some issue, if our joints, if our muscles, if our vessels, all are having some issue, we can find out it using the terahertz tomography. So it's mostly used in detecting these skin or the breast cancers in a really good early stage. So it will be easy for this medication purposes. And one more thing is that we all used to have this gypsum or band-aids in our body, right? So when we have these current conditions, these waves can be used to find out or visualize what is in the condition of the wound inside, because they can penetrate through all these band-aids and this gypsum. And they're used in mostly 3D imaging of teeth, mostly used in the medical area. Like they can provide us the 3D imaging of teeth, and maybe they can help us to find out the cancers of the teeth and epithelial cancers. All these can be found by using this terahertz waves in the medical field. Then pharmaceutical industries are also making use of this terahertz waves. They can have the chemical analysis of tablets, maybe capsules, what is the dosage of each tablet. So all these systems will have an use of the terahertz waves. So now the next part is security systems. We know in all places we have the security checks, maybe in airports and all the other places. So these can easily pass through the substances. So if something is covered, or some weapons, or maybe some explosives or something, if something is covered, these rays will be easily able to penetrate, and they can thoroughly scan it. And also this is being used in the body scan because it's not dangerous for the humans. For the people screening, it can be used for the luggage screening, maybe in post office screening, those envelopes, packages, and maybe some metals and all. We can use this for those screening purposes. This is mainly used by the military sector also. So they are using it in some telescopes, some remote sensing, and all these things. So if there are any weapons and all, we need to detect it quickly. And for military, we need to have this faster and easier data transmission. So all these purposes will be using the terahertz wave. And another peculiarity of the terahertz waves is that even the communication range is limited. We can go for only limited range of communication, but the data transfer rate is comparatively higher. So for a small area or small range of communication, we can use this terahertz waves. Now the next part, moving on to the next area, which is holographic image processing. So you have seen, or you will have an idea about what is holography, what is a hologram. You have watched this in many movies and all, I think. So here we'll be resonating, or we'll be creating structures of the images. So three-dimensional structures we'll be creating. So we'll be creating a hologram for any type of wave. It is possible to create a hologram for any type of wave. So the method is that we'll be superimposing a wavefront on another wavefront of our interest. So which one we need to create a hologram, or which one we need to superimpose? We'll have a wavefront and we'll superimpose another wavefront to that wavefront. Then we can have a pattern, and we'll record that pattern in a physical medium, or we'll record that pattern in a particular medium. So the main advantage of this holographic processing is that even the original medium is absent. once this process is done or once this process is completed, if the original medium is absent or in the absence of original medium also, we'll be able to reconstruct what we have taken or what we have analyzed. So this holography can be called as a technique which enables the light field to be recorded. We are recording it and then we'll be able to reconstruct it. So even if the original field or original part is no longer present, or even in its absence, we'll be able to reconstruct it. So that's the peculiarity of this holography. So mostly this holographic processing is also having applications in the medical field. So to have an idea about or to have an analysis about our skeletal structures or to identify if there are any abnormal growths in it. So with the help of this holography only, the doctors will be able to see this human skeletons, the organs or the muscles, veins. So most of them is used in the research purposes. Mostly this is being used by the researchers in the maybe in the biomedical research or maybe some medical analysis and all. And it can also be used in the identification of any abnormal growth of tissue or any organ or maybe even any external part of our body. So mostly used by the researchers to detect the diseases or proper identification or proper monitoring of health conditions in some infected areas and all, we use this holographic processing. Now I think we'll move on to the most important part, that is the medical science. Even though we have seen so many in some of the areas like 5G, holographic processing and all, most of them have applications in the medical science itself. So this medical science utilizes various areas of this electromagnetic spectrum. So we are using this to analyze or detect or treat some of the health conditions of the different patients. So here we know the different range of radiations, right? The X-rays, gamma rays, and all those rays. So we'll be using these radiations and the MRI scanning, maybe thermal imaging in endoscopy or colonoscopy or phototherapy. All these uses the different category of radiations of the electromagnetic spectrum. So I'll give you some idea or some topics in this medical area. So the first one is magnetic resonance imaging. The second one is RF ablation, and the third one is localized dielectric heating. So we can see each one of them, what is there in each one of them. So you'll have an idea about what is MRI. It's the magnetic resonance imaging. So these are the three parts which is necessary for this magnetic resonance imaging. So the first one is we need a static magnetic field of 0 frequency, and we have given this flux density. The value is it's 1.5 to 3 Tesla. Then we have this low power time varying magnetic field gradient, and we have this RF field. So these three fields are necessary for this MRI. So compared to the X-rays and maybe other radiations, this is safer. And mostly for the soft tissues or imaging, we use this method called the MRI. Maybe for the anatomical or the analysis of some of the structures to detect the cancers and all, we use this MRI. But the interesting fact is that every year, maybe in the worldwide, we are performing about 600, the humans are performing about 60 million MRI scans. So think about, we all are depending on this particular method that much, right? So that's why the count is about 60 million MRI scans. So each year we'll be performing this much. So this is that much important area where these waves are being used in the medical field. Then the next one is RF ablation. So this is being used by mostly by the two departments of medical field, in cardiology and then in oncology. So in cardiology, it is mainly used for the treatment of the cardiac disorders, and in oncology, it is mainly used for the tumor treatments. So for the cardiology, it's like a medical procedure which is used to correct the irregular heart rhythms. So this can help in maintaining this heart rhythms, maintaining the irregular heart rhythms. The second one is for the oncology. It's like we'll have a probe-like structure, RFA, that is the radio frequency ablation probe-like structure. So we have a tumor, we'll place this in that area and we'll increase the temperature and we'll destruct the tissue. I think this everyone is familiar with this procedure, that is this RF ablation. So when we have a tumor, we'll place it inside the tumor and we'll increase the temperature and we'll destruct the particular tumor. So the next part is localized dielectric heating. So this is mainly used by those who are working in the physiotherapy or who are taking this physiotherapy treatments. So here we have some conductance placed and the particular part of our body will be placed between that plate. And we'll be providing some small amount of heat to that area. So these fields will provide some healing in that particular tissue which is affected. So this we can call it as the therapeutic application of the high frequency alternating current. So I think you have received some idea about the different areas where we are using this electromagnetic waves. So I think I'll end up my session. So if you have any queries, maybe we can go for a discussion. So you can post something in the chat box, and if possible, I'll try to answer your queries. So I'll tell you one thing before starting this. I'll tell you one thing. You now come across some areas like, or you now have an idea about what is 5G or what is RF ablation, and you can have some idea, right? So how the 5G is there, what is its history, now what is its peculiarity, or what is this holographic processing, or what is this terahertz waves, you have an idea. So everything you are seeing, you are using it somewhere. So try to relate everything, or at least try to subscribe to some articles. I know you are all are engineering aspirants and you're focusing on the profession called engineering, right? So I'll tell you some tricks. Just try to, instead of watching all these reels, or maybe you can have these you can watch these matches and all, like you can watch movies in Netflix. All this is okay, but try to spare some time in researching things about this. It's not like improving your GK. It's like you are aware about all those things that are happening in your surrounding. There are some journals or there are some magazines that too are free. So try to read all those technical journals or maybe science journals. Try to subscribe them. So you will be informed about it. So now we have the concept called connected cars. So how this connected cars is working. So what all are the technologies behind it? You should have an idea about this. It's not about you're going to be into some interview or you're going to tell something you have studied. So it's like no one will ask you about what is electromagnetic wave in an interview. Maybe you have completed engineering or something. I'm just telling. So no one will ask about what is electromagnetic wave in an interview. They'll only talk about how, yeah, this is the technology, how this electromagnetic wave is there in the technology, or how this IoT is there, what is this cloud computing. So they'll only talk about these things. So you have to be, or you have to have an idea about all these things in your life. So just try to do these things. Yeah, in the YouTube, I'll be posting some reference links from this topics. Please recommend some good topics for starters. You can, yeah, does this affect birds? I have already heard this, like, but it'll not this 5G. So there were some uses, but there is no evidence. And people are not afraid of how this will affect us. And I'll tell you, the waves which is being used is between 30 hertz to 300. Means 30 to 300. The range is between 30 to 300. So it is safe for the humans. Below 300, this will be safe for the humans. So I think like the session was useful to you in one way or the other. Where we'll be, we have seen some of the applications. So if there are any questions, you can type in the chat box. You'll have the YouTube link of the session. We'll post it maybe after one day or something. So tomorrow also we'll come up with some topic. Maybe tomorrow we'll discuss something related to mathematics. And we can see what all are the areas, what are the recent trends in that particular area. Actually, you will not be able to, someone has asked about the certificate. So that's why you will not be able to download the certificate now. You'll be able to download the certificate only after this course is completed. So we'll have a small exam or a small test at the end of this session, means on the 10th day. And do attend the career counseling session and also the session with the alumni. And if you have any questions in your mind, you can ask that. So just give me a minute. I'll share this Yeah, this is the mail ID and this is my phone number. So if you have any doubts in any of the areas, or if you want to have clarifications in some area, you can just mail me or you can contact me in this number through WhatsApp.